These are our notes on solving equations by factoring. So we are going to be, again, honing in on those factoring skills and then just taking it one step further to solve the equations that we're factoring. So the first thing when we are going to solve these equations is that we need to have them in standard form. And what that means is all of our terms are on the left, and on the right side it's equivalent to 0. So jumping into example A here, we need to first move that 50 to the left-hand side so that our equation is equal to 0. Then I'm going to take out my GCF, which is 5 in this case. And then I'm going to factor this trinomial. So factors of -10 that add to -3 are going to be -5 and +2. And now I have completely factored this expression, which we are all familiar with, and the last step is to solve for x. Now, these three terms are being multiplied together, and it equals 0. To multiply two numbers together and get an answer of 0 means that one of those numbers has to be 0. Well, 5 can't be 0, but if x minus 5 or x plus 2 were 0, when I do my multiplication, my result is going to be 0. So I'm going to set x minus 5 equal to 0 and x plus 2 equal to 0. And if I solve for x, that's going to give me +5 or -2. So I have two possible answers for x because if I plug in 5, this term becomes 0, and if I plug in -2, this term becomes 0. All right, let's practice that again. On B, again, I need standard form. I need all of my terms to be on the left side. So 3x squared minus 48x equals 0. My GCF is going to be 3x. And now I have completely factored. So if one of these terms were 0, 3x was 0, or x minus 16 was 0, then my multiplication would give me an answer of 0. So we solve for x and we get 0 or +16. Okay. And then on C, that should say equals 0, but it's already in standard form. Everything is on the left, and so I'm going to first take out my GCF, which is x. And that's going to leave me with x cubed plus 3x squared minus 16x minus 48. Now, I have a 4-term expression that I need to factor, so I'm going to first look for a trinomial. I do not have a trinomial here, so I'm going to factor by grouping. So in my first two terms, the GCF is x squared. That leaves me with x plus 3. On the second two terms, my GCF is 16, and that leaves me with x plus 3. So my final factorization is going to be x plus 3 times x squared minus 16. And that x we took out at the very beginning has to stay in the front. Now I notice, lastly, that I have x squared minus 16, which is a difference of squares. So I have to do one more round of factoring. So x times x plus 3 times x plus 4 times x minus 4 is our complete factorization. And I'm actually going to have 4 possible answers here. X could be 0, x plus 3 could be 0, x plus 4, and x minus 4 could all be 0. So I'm going to have 4 different answers here. So I'm going to write this up at the top because I'm running out of room here. So our answers for C are x equals 0, -3, -4, or +4. Those are my 4 answers. Moving on to D, again getting it in standard form. So this is now a trinomial. Factors of 16 that add to -8, that's -4 and -4. So x minus 4 squared. So if x minus 4 equals 0, then x equals 4. Okay. E is already in standard form, and it's a trinomial, but our coefficient here is bigger than 1, so we have to do our splitting the middle term. So our factors of 18 that add to -11 are going to be -9 and -2. So So 6y squared minus 2y minus 9y plus 3 equals 0. Group, group. So we have 3y minus 1 times 2y minus 3 equals 0 as our final factored equation. So we set each of those parentheses equal to 0, and this time it's going to be a two-step problem to solve for y. So y is going to be either 1/3 or 3/2. Now f, it's already in standard form, and our GCF is actually x minus 15. So that one's pretty easy to factor. So x minus 15 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and so our values for x could be 15 or -3. Okay. Moving on to G, we have a difference of squares here where a is x plus 4 and b is 7. So that's going to be x plus 4 plus 7, x plus 4 minus 7. 4 plus 7 is 11. 4 minus 7 is -3. So x plus 11 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, and our two answers are -11 and +3. All right, last one on this front page, getting it into standard form right quick. 2x cubed minus 10x squared minus 28x. Factor out my GCF of 2x. So now I'm left with that trinomial on the inside to factor, looking for factors of -14 that add to 5, and that's going to be -7 and +2. So 2x equals 0, x minus 7 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. So I have three solutions here, and that's 0, +7, -2. Moving on to the next side. If I'm given the solutions and I want to write in a quadratic that has those solutions, so first, if x was 2 and x was -6, remember this came from saying x with some operator equaled 0. So let's get it back in that form. So x minus 2 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. So that means this factored expression was x minus 2 times x plus 6. So now if I FOIL this, I'm going to get my quadratic with those two solutions. Again, if x was 0 and x was 17, get that back into an equation that was 0. So that would be x times x minus 17. Distribute the x, and x squared minus 17x equals 0. Now, I'm going to show you two ways that we can solve problems similar to this. So, everything is already in standard form. It's all on the left side, but I don't have a GCF. There is an x plus 4 on two of the terms, but it's not in the two, so we can't factor it out. So we're actually going to have to decompose this entire expression. So first, I need to FOIL this x plus 4 squared. And then I have these other terms on the back. Distribute that 3. Okay, that should have been a plus x. And then 4 minus 2 is 2. So 3x squared, 24x, and x gives us 25x. 48 plus 2 gives us 50. Now I'm ready to factor. This coefficient is bigger than 1, so I have to do my splitting the middle term. Factors of 150 that add to 25 are 15 and 10. So group, group. So my final factoring is going to be x plus 5 times 3x plus 10. And then I could go on to solve for x. X plus 5 is 0. 3x plus 10 equals 0. And my two solutions are going to be -5 and -10 over 3. Okay. So that's kind of a long, drawn-out way to do this. An easier way to do this would be what's called u substitution. So I have this x plus 4 in two different places. So I'm going to say let u equal x plus 4. So if I substitute u in place in this equation, that's going to be 3u squared plus u minus 2 equals 0. Now I'm already at a trinomial, and I can use my splitting the middle term to solve it. So 3u squared plus 3u minus 2u minus 2 equals 0. Group, group. And so it's factored, and I can set each parentheses equal to 0 now. So u could be 2/3 or u could be -1. But I'm still wanting to solve for x. So once I get to this point, I can plug in x plus 4 back in the place of u. And now I just need to subtract 4 for both equations, and I get the same answers. Okay, so let's practice that again on B. I have x plus 2 in two places, so if I let my u be x plus 3, I can rewrite this as u squared plus 2u minus 3 equals 0. And now that's a trinomial, and I don't even have to go as far as splitting the square on this one. I just need factors of -3 that add to 2. So u plus 3 equals 0, u minus 1 equals 0. So we've got -3 and +1. So now that I'm at this step, I'm just going to substitute back in x plus 3 and solve for my two x values. And we have -6 and -2. Okay. Last page. So we want to make a box starting with some flat rectangle. So this could be made of cardboard of some sort. And its width is 4 and its length is 5. And what I'm going to do is cut out a square from each corner with length of x. And I'm going to fold it up to make a box. Now, to find the volume of that box, that's going to be length times width times height. So we need to find the length, width, and height of this box that we're making. So my length originally is 5, and I'm taking an x off of the left and the right side. So that's 2 x's. So my length is going to be 5 minus 2x. My width is going to be that initial 4 minus an x from the top and the bottom. So also minus 2x. And my height is going to be x. Whatever that amount that I'm cutting off of each side, that's going to be the height of the box. So the volume would be all of those expressions multiplied by each other. So length times width times height. Now I can determine for what values my volume would be 0 by setting this expression equal to 0. So 5 minus 2x equals 0. 4 minus 2x equals 0, or x equals 0. So we're going to get 5 over 2, 2, and 0. Now I'm going to make a separate video because I'm running out of time on using the calculator to do these last two parts.